Easy, how are we?
Johnny, I'm a busy bee.
Busy. Oh, here we go again. You're a busy bee. You and the dad jokes. Go ahead.
I was out chasing bees today. Well, when I say
Oh,
chasing, I hobbled after them. No, these swarm of bees. As an avid beekeeper now, there was the neighbour had a swarm of bees, so I was over catching them earlier. It's great. I look like a guru now. You know, you show up with your cardboard box and your bed sheet, and they're like, "What are you going to do with that?" It's like, "Watch this." So it's cool. It's good. So there's a little bit of work in them, but hobbling around, which is good. The boot has come off, which is it's not supposed to come off till Monday. But say nothing to anyone, Sean. But I had to just see how it was because we're under a bit of pressure to get moving.
no.
Yeah. So it's yeah, it is what it is. We're definitely there's not going to be any cycling or maybe we might get back to the pool next week, but cycling and running are going to be out for, I'd say, at least another 2 to 3 weeks.
You can't put pressure on it all on the bike, or you can get the cleat into your foot, or.
So I'll try to describe it. To put power through the ball of my foot is fine. It's the flexion of if you can imagine pushing your heel down, toes up, it's just a non-event. And I actually hit my foot off something. It forced that calf stretch type movement, if I'm describing that right, and it was just sheer agony. I was goose then. I was gone for the day. I was foot up then afterwards. But so yeah, it's because you walk up. It's like starting a rough engine. Going to the toilet, you hobble, and then it does kind of loosen up to the point you can maneuver around. And then the minute you do something wrong or a sharp movement, it's instant reminder of you're a goose. So it's a bit frustrating because, like the running injuries, you're like, oh, will I just see if it's, and you get a sharp reminder. So, it's a bit annoying, but we're getting better.
You're doing a bit of upper body work down in the gym, though, right? And how's the head? Because
I've been flat out all week. So I've been trying to do pull-ups, which I can't do.
No, that's not true. You told me you got one. You got one pull-up in.
Yeah,
so what have you been doing for that?
Well, I said I'm trying to do pull-ups.
Yeah,
there's a plural there. I did a pull-up. So it's all upper body and stopping eating. Really, I know that's not nutrition advice, but I love my grub and I usually out-train my food. But I can't do that anymore. So I've really had to focus on the nutrition side and really watching my portions. But it's funny though, like I was kind of eating, not really training, and just being like, nah, I'll fix that, when I get back running and I get through this point. But the ankle has really been the catalyst I probably needed, although that sounds bad, but
that's
in terms
one way of putting it.
Yeah, but in terms of nutrition, like overnight, I got very strict in terms of getting the right amounts of food in at the right amount of time and the right amount of portions. And because it was serious then, because sitting on the couch, you can't just be going for the crisps and chocolate all the time. You can do that when you're out running marathons, but when you're confined to couch and getting 500 steps in a day, it's. So in a way, it's been a nice thing that the nutrition side has really come in, and I've gotten on top of a lot of my cravings. So we always talk about the post-marathon. When you finish a marathon, you stop, but you still want to eat like there's no tomorrow, and you still have the cravings. I've spent the last 2 weeks recovering and also eating the right things for recovery and anti-inflammatories and the omega-3s and the fishes and the fatty. I've been going... I actually really worked hard on the nutrition to help my recovery, and I've a bucket here that's been used more times as an ice bucket for the last 2 weeks than anything else. So 4 times a day, hot cold treatments. So I'm determined to come back quick, but I'm happy that I've only had to focus on one thing, and was really hard for the first week, and that was nutrition and getting on top of the cravings, which is really, really good.
So you're looking online, you're seeing, I know I did only one event and I'm already feeling like I'm hobbling through runs and stuff right now, but we'll see how I go down further down the line. But you're seeing, a lot of different running starting to come up now. People are building towards Dublin Marathon. We got to pick 4 people have to be picked for the Dublin Marathon series, the Incredibles, as you like to call it. the ball's rolling in a lot of things right now, and you're literally sitting down with your foot up. How is the head?
It's not great. Because like the reason I wasn't training was because of work and because of the study and because of that. And I had literally just completed that
Mm,
the Friday night. And then I was like, yes, right, time to go back running. And then this happened. So now I've lost that work and study pressure and then I'm not training. So I even got my thoroughbred 10K ticket arrived in the post there, my race number. I was like, yeah.
ah,
Yeah, so
that's a Gucci medal usually that you're going to miss out on as well. I know
I
you're a fan of
know.
medals.
Yeah, so I love a good medal, and that's the only reason I was doing it now, to be honest. No, it's so there's little things like that I'm just a little bit frustrated about. But again, it's focused a few other things that I've been
Mm,
able to put the brakes on it and look at a realistic plan, and it'll start next week with the physio, and then from there I think I'll probably go back doing a good bit of swimming, which really is lacking, as I found out in the Barrow the week before.
mm,
Couldn't move my arms for about 4 days after that swim.
we that bad?
Um, yeah, yeah. You think me pull ups are bad? You should have seen me trying not to drown. But it's something. Then if that's all I can do, then let's do that a good few
Mm,
times a week and progress on something that's weak. And then I think the bike will probably come next naturally enough. So the bike will probably be that. I'll be doing a lot of Zwift training. I won't be going outside
yeah,
because I won't be able to rely on it. The stability is gone. Even, like if someone walks past you or you're stepping by someone in the kitchen, you kind of can't. I just kind of have to stand because there's no stability in it whatsoever.
gotcha.
It's bizarre. It does when you're standing there throwing bees in a bucket, but it's any wrong move, I'd be covered in bees like I was the nettles. But yeah, but yeah, it's frustrating, but at the same time, it could be worse. But the wedding pressure is the real pressure. That's just 3.5 weeks till I have to moonwalk on the dance floor. So that's what I'm really
The
worried
first
about.
dance.
Yeah,
Speak
first hobble.
on nutrition there, because there's some people listening that might start their marathon plan 16 weeks from now. Helen Delaney had a great issues, former guest of the podcast and joined us the first year doing Barcelona. She did a great post on talking about the 16 weeks to the Dublin Marathon with those doing it. That is not the time to be going for nutrition not nutrition, sorry, for fat loss and trying to lose, less calories, because you want to feel the system and get your marathon plan and build that up cautiously without, it's a time where a lot of people risk injury. But maybe the 3 weeks before you start building that up, if you feel like, and we've had people, got a guest, the podcast contradicts this, myself and yourself, and probably not to listen to us, but I do feel like there's a certain weight you need to get down to that you feel comfortable running in. So, for example, I'm running at 88, 89 right now. I'm like, it just, even last week, it just felt a little heavy going for the runs. I feel like I'm a little heavy. And I've always relied on what you said there on just, the training. It'll balance out the training. I'll feel the body. I'll get the runs and stuff like that. But then that's taken away from you right now. And it's like, I gotta focus on the nutrition really hard to help get the weight down. There might be people listening that might want to get the weight down and pull back on the training for 2-3 weeks and then get themselves maybe a kilo or two down. Obviously, do it safely. I know I'm treading a fucking line here in how I say this,
Yeah.
but like for example, 89 for me, I feel is too heavy for what I'm about to do, and I am struggling losing that, but at the same time, I haven't put a plan in place to lose that because I've always gone with set. These are the meals I'm used to eating when I'm eating, and that's worked in the past, and it's not working for me anymore because I'm the heaviest I have been. For you, what do you think people should do in terms of you're talking about the right foods and stuff like that? Is that for you just getting rid of processed foods and the fizzy drinks, and you're onto your waters and more home cooking, so you know that like if you're out, there's other stuff going into the food, the sneaky calories you don't see, or maybe it's switching. I know you're a coffee drinker, cappuccinos, the Americanos. That's more for myself out loud to do. What are you talking about there with right foods?
So, when you're looking at a marathon plan, if you're starting to do a marathon because your goal is to lose weight, I think, and people disagree with that. I think that's an
Mm,
okay goal to have, but
okay.
training for a marathon doesn't coincide with a strict calorie deficit diet. weight loss will be a byproduct. If you go from sedentary to training for a marathon, weight loss will happen. It is going to be a natural
But you're not
byproduct.
thinking about it though. Do you know
No,
what I mean? You're
you're
not.
not.
You're not trying
You're
to
not
lose weight.
actively going. Yeah, but you know, and a healthier lifestyle, it will happen. The biggest thing that people can do is, and people have to be careful with it because you can get addicted to or become really annoying to be around, is calorie tracking. So using an
Mm.
app or using something to open your eyes into actually how much are we depositing into the bank account, you know, and then how much are we spending in a day?
Okay.
And just seeing where you're at and what you thought your normal portions or your normal sizes were compared to what you're doing. And there's no good food or bad food. There's really tasty food
Hmm.
and it's calorie dense, and there's other food which is less calorie dense. So I don't believe there's bad food, but there's food we definitely should have more in moderation than others. But that's where you kind of have to go through that stage of educating yourself of, right, what is 200 grams of baby boiled potatoes versus 200 grams of rice? You know, and
Okay.
so if you're like me and I love a big portion baby boiled potatoes and I stack them high because they're nearly roughly a calorie a gram. Maybe I'm a little bit off on there, but you can have a lot of potatoes. That will be the equivalent of a dairy milk. So you
Okay.
see,
Right.
really, really tasty food, but not calorie dense, not really nutritionally dense, lots of sugar versus getting in your carbs elements there. And then there's experimenting. So for me, I do have a chocolatey, I love my chocolate. So I restrict myself now. There's, because I now drink coffee as well, so my espresso, but there's these little in Aldi, little mini bars. They're little single strips of like, it's like a Kinder Maxi type thing,
Okay.
and that's all I'm allowed. That's my sweet treat with the coffee because I just think, you know, you have to enjoy it and it's guilt free. Um, so they're just like little things I would think about in terms of, and to answer the heavy part. So it's not about diet; it's about recognizing what foods give you what. So that if you are ravenous after a run, you
Mm.
know, well, if I have my potatoes, I am going to be belly busting full and satisfy that, but it won't pay the penalty of putting on. But
Okay.
there's also a time and a place for chocolate, and there's also a time and a place for a lot of carbs in quick succession, because you're going to take gels, you're going to practice with, you know, there is a time and a place for it. So it's about being balanced, and there are people out there who nutrition coaches with previous episodes where people can
Mm.
get back in and look at and take on board some of the information that was there. Um, but ours is just practical, how we live our lives. But it's a good one to kind of understand what it is you're currently doing. And the biggest thing that people do, surprisingly, is undereat for marathon training. So you know,
Mm.
that's when the odd square of chocolate can help with the calorific intake. You know, so it's important to get a grasp of what you're currently doing now and what's required for the output you're looking at. In terms of training heavy, I always do that as well. I feel heavy at the start. Like right now, I was on 95, 6 kilos. So when you're that way, you feel heavy. But what I keep telling myself is it's just a weighted vest.
Okay.
So you're training a little bit heavier. Go easy on yourself. Your heart rate will be a little bit higher. You'll be a little bit slower. But as the weeks progress, you'll naturally um, start to burn off some fat for energy. If you're balancing your calories and doing it correctly, now they say you shouldn't lose weight as you're doing it. But if you are burning fat for energy and every so slight you've gotten it just less and you're trending in the right direction, I actually think that's a positive.
Hmm.
But others will say you should not lose weight during a marathon. You should be eating what you're putting out for all those things we've discussed about recovery and healthy recovery and stuff. But naturally, because of the output in the long runs, we always undereat. You will start losing that weight, but you have to be careful it's not too rapid, or, you know, it's, for me, you'll see, you know, hundreds of grams coming off weekly. And that'd be acceptable. If people are trying to lose a kilo a week, it's a different, it's a
Mm.
different animal. You can't be taking on that. But the books do balance naturally as it goes, and you will improve. But I think health experts will say you should not lose weight while training. You should balance the bank account in and out to prevent with injury prevention. Um, and help and aid recovery and make sure that you have the correct intakes. But because, and I'm given the reality, most people undereat,
Yeah.
they will start to see themselves losing weight. So I wouldn't be preempting a diet or restricting calories. I try and get as close as you can through clean food to what you think the output is or what the watch is showing, and it's never correct. So it's always a little bit less. And if you start losing weight rapidly, you know, I need to start eating more. So I agree you shouldn't be dropping weight like a stone, but if you're starting to gradually lose body fat, as opposed to, you know, muscle density and tone and stuff, it's I think is a little bit different, because you probably train, if you're doing strength and conditioning, you're creating hungrier muscles, more lean muscle, so your metabolic rate might be up, so your body is actually a little bit hungrier than you would have previously had, and that is churning through the body fat for the extra. But again, you need to make sure, and if you are interested in managing all that, there are so many of our previous guests that have the right qualifications. But from a me and you and what we know and what we have practiced, it's definitely one that people always they undereat for. So just be careful.
Absolutely. Just to put a final nail on that one, I remember like if I'm doing a different class or stuff like that, people like, how many calories I burn this class, and I'm like, I don't get too much anymore, but I used to always get that different class. I do like, how many calories this session? Like, don't even worry about it. It's so, it will make it could be 4, it could be 600 calories, but at the end of the day, it'll mean nothing unless you get the stuff done right. And then I'm like, it's probably similar for running and stuff. And then we Sean Canan on the podcast from Health Matters there a year or two ago, and then he was telling me numbers, and me and you argued about this as well, because like, you're doing 2,500 or something in the long run. I'm like, no, you're not. Doesn't and I'd be starving after a run, and I'd be, especially on a Sunday, I'm like, right, second filling of a roast dinner, let's go. But I'd be starving after. Like, it can't be that much. That's just way too much. If it's like 400, 500, 600 calories in a class for a long run, it just can't. And then Sean's like, no, you're probably under fueling. It is that amount. As the biggest problem he sees with when he does the VO2 max testing and the metabolic testing and all the rest. And I'm like, fuck, Eric was right. Right. This is the podcast. But
I am right, but also I'm very aware to stay in the lane. There are better experts to follow, but it's just the general
and just to clarify to people, you have done nutrition course and stuff. That you do have a base level of it, like
base level knowledge, and that's why I know that, and that's why I've resorted back to my own, and I'm eating foods to help inflammation, and you know, like I like to get the natural recovery through food as opposed to taking anti-inflammatories. Now, of course, at the start I needed the extra assistance and stuff, but there's healing in food, and as long as you're eating the right stuff, and it is hard to balance, but it's particularly for runners who are busy, meal prepping is going to be your friend.
Yeah, it's funny you say busy, because the two things I'm struggling with right now is food, getting that right, and probably a bit vain wanting to lose weight as well. But the other one is balancing it all in terms of time management. And our next guest, the podcast, just goes like, the terms of what she's done and trying to balance out. We get into like burnout and stuff like that as well in this podcast. It is, as the Dublin Marathon comes closer and other things happen, I'm like, how am I going to structure everything right and still get the training going and still get that balance in home life and everything? And it's something I'm struggling with. People probably notice, because the types of questions I do ask in these podcasts lately. But this guest, we kind of go deep a little bit into the woods in this one.
Yeah, this one's a great one, and it's one of those of like, it's fantastic to see how far people can go, you know, when there's certain athletes that come on that just have that attitude that, I don't know, maybe me and you never had. That's why we're sitting here running the podcast instead of being a guest on it. But it is a fantastic episode, and one that's insightful into the ins and outs of being elite, and it's a great one and a good story as well.
With that said, we'll go straight into it for this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go. Our next guest on the Any Given Runday podcast has gone from being a 5-time Canadian national medalist and 24 provincial titles across 400 metre hurdles, 400 metre sprint and 100 metre hurdles to earning a US scholarship and competing in semi-pro soccer. Yes, Eric, I said soccer. To entering the world of Hyrox with multi-podium positions, cracking the Elite 15 along with 3 World Championship appearances, I'm nearly done, including representing Canada twice in relay, all while somehow being a lawyer. Kayti Simonson, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. How are you getting on?
Great. That was a mouthful. I
I'm
didn't
out of
even
breath.
those
That's
things.
Katie. That's some introduction, but the most important question is: Canada are playing Bosnia in about 45 minutes' time. Why are you doing an interview with us?
It was only a 45-minute interview. I can be done and out by the time the game starts.
After an introduction like that, I don't think so. You may strap yourself in there, Katie. We've got a bit to talk about. So, Katie,
Well, you don't
that
know
is...
it, but the game is on behind me. So if my vision starts to shift and I start yelling, this is what's happening.
Katie, that is an impressive accolade list, and you've been, by the sounds of it, involved in sport. But where we always like to go and we like to start every podcast is, how did your running journey start? Where did Kayti Simonson start running and deciding to jump hurdles instead of just running the track? Where did it all begin for you?
I started running. I mean, I've been running my whole life. Like as a kid, you just run around, right? And it's so much fun. But actual somewhat organized running, I was probably 13. I started all my sporting endeavors late in life. So around 13, 14, I started trying out for my junior high sporting teams, and then track rolled around in the spring. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. I can go run in a circle. That sounds great. And then it went really well. And then clubs started scouting me. And then next thing I know, there was provincial championships and national championships, and it just took off.
It's terrifying to think, because in Ireland, it's like the parenting methodology would be, how many sports can I get them to do between the ages of 5 and 12? And let's hope there's a professional millionaire somewhere in there. And you go to the trainings and you look at them and they're drooling on each other, and, you know, it's organized chaos. So it's unusual, really, when you see, when you're reaching that high school age, or the secondary school age, as we call it here, 13, to beginning to pick up sports. Was it unusual, I suppose? Were people jealous? Kids who've been in athletics clubs since they were 6, 7, and Katie shows up and absolutely smokes them on the first day, and she probably started running in the wrong direction to start off. You know, how does that work to get into it? And the reason I ask this is, it's a loaded question, because not knowing a ceiling or a boundary or a limit of what you were capable of, how was that transitioning in and all of a sudden picking up medals?
You know, it's a really interesting question, because I was always a very active kid, but I was playing in the parks, playing in the mountains. I was always outside. And then to get into organized sports so late, I think was actually such a blessing, because I didn't have almost like that helicopter parenting of trying to be like, oh, you're 5 years old, you're going to be a professional tennis player, being shoved onto you. And my athletic journey was very much self-driven. My parents were never pushing me to be an athlete. Everything I did was because I wanted to. So to get into sports and to do well kind of out the gate was a little bit of a shock and kind of confusing, but because, like you said, there was no ceiling, it was full steam ahead. And I never really thought, at least initially, what the goals could be or what the caps could be, for better or worse.
At this stage, Katie, you're 13, 14, 15. Eric has talked before about being the podcast, about doing sports and stuff just to get out of classes so he get to go off traveling wherever. But I listened to the podcast at 13. Am I right in saying you wanted to be a lawyer at that stage? So how does it work to do that, as well as seeing how far you could take this athletic journey at the same time? Like, that's a lot to take on.
Yeah, you know, when I was, about 13, I learned what a lawyer was. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm naturally competitive, obviously. And so, so finding out what that profession was, I was like, oh, I get to go, I guess, be competitive, almost combative, strategic for a profession. I get paid to do that. That's so cool. So that was always the end goal. But what was really difficult over, not necessarily as a teenager, but in my 20s, is knowing that was the goal to work towards while trying to pursue elite athletics. And I didn't have a good enough understanding of timing and trying to do both at the same time. So in law school, I was like, okay, I need to focus on, getting through law school. And I played prem soccer in the US and England, which was cool. But I'm like, if I put off law school for a couple of years, could I have gone to play professional soccer? Should I have done that? It was a really difficult thing to try and reconcile which goals to chase at the same time.
It's a funny one because with me, when we were looking at the development age in soccer, if you hadn't really made it by 16, 17, 18, you were like, well, that's it. Off to college I go and see if I can pick up a scholarship. And, we're lucky enough that we can pick them up, and we probably play into the League of Ireland over here. And you can play at a pretty high level, but the professional side now, the sport is growing even in Ireland now. But at the time, decision was kind of made. It was like, you haven't quite made the cut at 17, 18. College is where it takes over. But obviously, in the female sports, you can get ladies like yourself who are only coming into sports 17, 18, 19, or maybe even a post-school element. Do you feel that that's more conflicting then for women as they try and juggle that? Am I going to be a professional athlete versus profession versus family life as well? Because that's something that always comes up in a conversation when we talk to female athletes.
Absolutely. It's really hard. And as a teenager, part of the reason why I didn't pursue a soccer scholarship out the gate was because I found in soccer there was a lot of politics, and your success is dependent on other players or coaches or just situations. So I was like, track is smooth and simple. You run the time, that's it. And then getting into, I guess, my 20s, I'm trying to juggle degrees and wanting to play professionally and having those goals. And then, of course, you think about, oh God, when do I need to settle down? When do I need to get married and have children? And it's really overwhelming. And something that I've tried to do is be really patient with letting things unfold. And that's something I've worked on really significantly just in the last year or two, but kind of, I guess, creating my own rules. I saw what everyone else was doing, and I'm like, man, they don't look very happy, or they're trying to do too much. I'm like, I'm just, for all intents and purposes, going to do whatever the fuck I want, and it's my life, and how it plays out is on me because I'm the one in the driver's seat. So social constructs be damned,
And when you're a teenager, did you carry that ethos pretty much from when you got into it? Because a lot of time what we see is the external pressures on young athletes. And when we talk to some of our Irish athletes that have been on, there was that identity. I am a runner and that is what I am. And that carries them into university. And if they lose that through injury, they can lose a piece of themselves. Did you find growing up that social construct didn't apply to you? And has that helped you in a sense?
I didn't necessarily consider myself, I consider myself a runner for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
considered myself an athlete, and that definitely was ingrained in my identity. And I only really started dealing with that in the last couple of years, trying to realize that your identity is who you are as a person, your character, your values, your demeanor versus a piece of something you do. That's only something in the last couple of years I've really come to, I guess, face and understand. I didn't even think about that as a teenager in my 20s.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's interesting you said that, because even like researching you, you've so many different avenues you went down. Like, you did a bit of CrossFit here. You somehow end up in England playing soccer. You did obviously running into the Hyrox and all the rest, hurdles, sprints. You have a book club as well. It just and all that, trying to, you have a successful business. Just I'm struggling where to go with that. Completely honest, I don't want to go straight to Hyrox. We talk about that so much. How did you end up in England?
So when I was figuring out which law schools I wanted to go to, I'd finished my MBA in Florida, and I knew I wanted to go to law school. So I was like, do I go back to Canada as a Canadian? But as I was searching for law schools, I found out that there was a law school that was actually quite close in proximity that had the best trial program in the country, and also had this exchange program where you spend your second year abroad at one of 10 universities offered, and you get your master's of law. And then you come back and finish your third year in Florida. So I was like, oh, I can do my 3-year law degree while concurrently getting my master's of law somewhere abroad. That sounds cool. And then when I figured out which master's program I wanted to be into, I was like, okay, let's see what soccer teams are within the area or somewhat close. And so I ended up being placed on the Norwich women's team. So I played there while, getting that degree.
Was this post running? Did you at this point had you made a decision that hurdles was gone? Did that end in college, or at what point did the running side and the hurdling side leave and the soccer become more prominent? Because that in itself is a difficult decision. Or did you keep the two?
No, that was so hard. I finished undergrad, and my senior year I actually qualified for the Canadian Olympic trials, and I didn't run in them. And for years, for years, I regretted that. I was like, this is my cat. I was like, oh man, how could I miss this opportunity? I should have just raced just to do it, regardless of whether or not I thought I was going to make that team. But in hindsight, maturing and reflection, I realized I was so burnt out that I finished my undergrad. I won my conference championships. That was great. But I was fried, and I didn't race because I just didn't have it in me. And so the transition to soccer then came. I had 4 years of NCAA eligibility that I allocated towards track, but you get 5 years as an athlete. So I'm like, oh, I have 1 year left. Cool. And so I was like, let's see if I can get a soccer scholarship. So I got a soccer scholarship to grad school. And that's
Just
kind of what
like that. My God.
that's
You
where that
make it sound so easy, but obviously there's huge talent there. Like it was based on merit. You got the scholarship because soccer scholarships in the US are very difficult at times, and a lot of Irish even try and get them to go over, and even NCAA scholarships are quite difficult to get. So you've qualified for top tier sport, university sport, which is as good as professional without the title and emerging professionals. But what was that transition like? Because although you're part of an NCAA team, a track team, maybe a relay team, it's very much literally a different ballgame when you transition to soccer, dressing room, team dynamics. It's so different. How was that for you then, transitioning from back across to the soccer at that stage? Shawnee, quick question. Father Day is coming up on June 21st, longest day of the year, I know. What do you get a dad who loves running, training, or just staying active? It's not a joke, real question.
Longest day of the year, easiest answer of the year. It has to be the Ultra Pure Sports Recovery gift set, right, Eric? Because that is the perfect Father's Day gift for runners.
We're getting better at these ads. I have to say, though, it does have everything you need for before, during, and after training. Epsom salts gel, a leave-on recovery gel, wintergreen heat rub cream, arnica cream for bumps and bruises, which I could probably do with a lot of myself right now, and a limited edition soothing foot soak.
Oh, I've seen your feet pics recently. You absolutely could do with that. So whether you're shopping for yourself, someone special, or looking for the perfect Father's Day gift, the Ultra Pure Sports Recovery gift set is guaranteed Irish and something they'll actually use.
It's perfectly priced, just €40, and is a fantastic value for the complete recovery package.
And that's not all. Just put in the discount code RUN10 and you can get an exclusive 10% off.
That's RUN10 for €4 off. A great excuse to treat yourself or someone special this Father's Day. So shop now at ultrapurelabs.ie. And by listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Now let's get back to the episode. Happy Father's Day.
The team aspect I didn't find was difficult. I captained my track team in undergrad, so I was kind of used to being in a leadership position. And then I played volleyball, basketball, badminton, soccer, all of it in high school and captained those teams. So the team aspect was easy, but coming into a team that had been playing together for several years and me only being there for that 1 year, that was really difficult because you don't have a significant opportunity to blend with the team, mesh, learn that cohesion, and also really show what you're capable of in such a short season. I mean, you're playing for like 5-6 months, right? So that I found was very frustrating, is not having the time to really demonstrate what I could do, but also build that rapport with the rest of the team.
You had to be a striker, right, with that speed from the 100 meters?
Yeah.
I didn't even research that. I just thought. I was trying to think there. You have someone that's 100 meters and 400-meter hurdles. Where do you put them? Have to put them up front.
You know, my dad always says he thinks that I've always run faster on a soccer field than I ever have on the track. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't see how that's possible, but he stands by that.
It's an amazing a difference and an amazing shift, but testament to the athlete you are, and you've touched on in terms of your leadership ability, because again, you've started sport in high school, you've captained teams in high schools, you've really taken to the athletic kind of lifestyle, and it is very much a lifestyle. What was that lifestyle and the athletic lifestyle in that college era? I suppose, and how do you live that lifestyle? Because there's obviously a lot of sacrifice in that time as well, while trying to manage your college degree and your education.
You know, people talk about the sacrifice aspect a lot as an athlete, and I have lived it 10 ways to Sunday. No pun for this podcast. But for me, the sacrifice hasn't been super difficult. Like there would be times where I'd miss birthdays or something and that sucked, or graduations for someone important. But for me, I was like, I'm dedicating myself to something I love. And I would rather be striving to better myself and take on these challenges and I guess be outside my comfort zone rather than live a life that I saw a lot of people living, which consisted of kind of just hanging out and going to the bar and getting settled into a state of almost mediocrity. And that was far more scary to me than ever taking on these challenges. So the sacrifices that I've made, yeah, sometimes they were really difficult, but I would never go back and change that because I honestly would rather stand on top of a podium or at least endeavor for a podium than be like, I went for beers Friday night, you know?
What's your thoughts on the word balance and all that coming into it?
So balance is something that I've only really figured out, I think, in the last year or two, because when I was training and competing and going to university, I mean, you're all in no matter what, but I didn't understand the nuance of balancing your, I guess, sleep, your nervous system, your mental health. I was kind of an all or nothing state. And if I was starting to get fatigued or burnt out, I mean, I just pushed through it. And so around when I hit 30, I kind of hit a wall and was like, oh, I need to learn how to balance these things in a healthy way. You can do it all based on adrenaline and it's sustainable for as long as don't hit that wall. Your adrenaline will carry you quite far until you hit that brick wall and then you're fried. And now I'm learning how to balance things in a much healthier way. So I actually take time to not be overstimulated and go to therapy and journal and regulate and not beat the shit out of myself when I'm really tired.
That must have been some wall you hit, considering all the stuff you've done up until you're near 30.
I hit that wall hard. And
What does
that's
what
not
does
to
that
say
look like? Talk us through the wall.
No, my 20s were fantastic from a stance of athletics and academics and achievement. But yeah, I didn't understand the importance of nervous system regulation and rest when required. If I could push through something, I was like, I almost wore it like a badge of honor. How much can you survive? You know what I mean? And I've realized that that's not actually something to be proud of at this point because it's just not healthy.
When you look at the rhetoric that was probably put to us as athletes growing up was no pain, no gain. You
Hmm.
know, if it's everything worth fighting for, it was always this punishment is there, you know, the 4 a.m. running in the rain element. And I do get it, but science is now saying you're better off staying in bed till 8. Go for a run then, you know, or getting to bed at 8 in the morning if you're going to be up at those kind of things and stuff that I suppose it's knowledge is so much more available with this Strava apps, Garmin apps. Everybody is a running coach. You were probably privileged enough to have coaches in university to kind of give you that guidance on a coaching level. But even still, when we go back to those kind of things, rest and recovery probably wasn't a priority. Or was it any different for you guys?
I mean, there would be rest days built in, but for me, I I struggled a little bit in hindsight because I if you told me train 7 days a week, and if you train 7 days a week, 3 times a day, that's what's going to make you the best in the world, I would have done it without hesitation. So even now, I'm more mindful of it, but I still need my coaches to kind of rein me back in because I'm always concerned about leaving, I guess, gains or potential on the table. And I never want to put myself in that situation. So if I can do more, I'll do it. So I really almost need to be pulled back to keep from, I guess, overtraining or running into another wall.
I cannot imagine that's easy for your coach to pull you back. Just this session, or did this just hit this lift and that's it? It's again, oh, sorry, got an extra couple of reps in there. Volume was feeling good.
If I'm not leveled after a session, I'm like, did I even do anything?
Yeah.
Not great.
It's a common one. If you're not sweating, you're not trying. That's another one that we all suffer with as well. It's that feeling of exhaustion, like an interval session. You'll always feel so much better after an interval session than an easy recovery run because you're like, yeah, I actually worked. I did something. I'm improving. It's just that psyche that is in every athlete, no matter whether it's soccer, if you're doing the sprints, the preseason training, it feels so much harder than the technical or the footwork or it's always those different avenues we go. But transitioning from that, and obviously your time in the UK, did you spend long playing football in the UK?
I was only there for a year and then I had to come back to finish my degree.
Was it
And
hard to leave? Did you prioritize the education again? Did you think maybe this could be me? I could stay playing soccer.
I was in a very weird situation personally. I ended up in a very unhealthy relationship, and the thought of staying or this or even doing anything with a goal in mind wasn't even in my brain at that point. So I came back to the States to finish my degree, and the goal was literally to finish my degree and move on with life, and start over wherever I wanted to start over. So I was in such a state of survival that the thought of playing professional soccer just I couldn't even conceive it for that time frame. So it was finish my degree, and that was the only focus I had.
Is there a gap between football and then you finding Hyrox? Did you find another
Yes,
sport in between?
there was. I moved back to Canada after finishing law school, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, now I'm an adult and a professional. I guess I'm not an athlete, a competitive athlete anymore." And I played soccer in the top tier women's league here, which was great. Uh, but then COVID hit and things just got very weird. And no one was doing anything, and I didn't know what to do. And I was still working out, but it's just not the same. And then as COVID started to, I guess, end, I felt soft, more so mentally and emotionally than physically. And I realized how important it is for me to be challenged and that I want those challenges. And then I saw that goofy race on Instagram and was like, oh, let's give that a try. And here we are.
That goofy race was actually, I actually think, timing is everything in business and in particular for Hyrox because you can find people to their garage. Barbell sales went up 10 million%. Everybody had a kettlebell and a sandbag. So COVID had pretty much created home gyms made for an event like this. What was your first training session like? And the reason being because even still it can carry some taboo, the Hyrox element. People who are runners are like, nah, that's that Hyrox stuff and triathletes. But it is an endurance sport. So I want to know, having your sporting experience, showing up to that first training session and going, yes, home. What was that feeling like?
So I signed up for North American Championships, I think 2 or 3 weeks before it took place. My training sessions leading in didn't exist. I was doing CrossFit train. I was doing all the training I was used to doing. So way too much volume in CrossFit, um, sprint intervals, stuff like that. I did not have a training session that I would qualify as Hyrox leading into that race. So I was going in blind, and it was, oh man, it was a rude awakening into how challenging it is. I mean, I looked at him like, oh, it's a kilometer. That can't be that hard. Meanwhile, I don't know if I've ever run more than a couple kilometers at once, ever. So
Sprinters
I
don't tend to.
significantly underestimated it. And I think sheer, I want to say grip, but maybe spite is what carried me through that race.
But it is a humbling factor, and I had it. Now, I didn't do much training either, but we are two different ends of that spectrum, Katie. But the 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 humbling element of it, and for me, it's I like to be good at things instantly, which is never the case, unlike you. But when we look at the, no, I'm only joking. When you look at the Hyrox element, for me, there was a part of I enjoyed the hurt side of it. I enjoyed how difficult it was, and how a kilometer was a very long kilometer, and a 1,000-meter row was a very long 1,000 meters. But I also hated myself for not being able to keep up with that to a level that I would like to. Is that the hook? Is that what keeps people coming back?
Hydration is key to fueling endurance performance.
Perform Nutrition's Electrolytes Plus sachets have been specifically designed to fill the need for advanced hydration for athletes.
With 1,000 milligrams sodium, all essential electrolytes, and 2,500 milligram performance blend made up of glutamine, taurine, and coconut water powder, one sachet will replenish and revitalize your hydration.
Using natural flavors, natural colors, no added sugar, and no added fillers, each sachet has a sweet and lightly salted fruity flavor and comes in either mixed berry or citrus.
Informed, sport tested, and trusted by Olympians such as Kayti O'Connor, world champion boxer Aoife O'Rourke, and pro triathlete Nikki Bartlett, and many more elite athletes.
Trust Perform to fuel your excellence, and by listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Now let's get back to the episode.
I mean, I can't speak for other people, but for me, because Hyrox is very much outside my comfort zone, I really sought out the challenge because it was so new, and I was intrigued by a different style of training and seeing what I was capable of in doing something that wasn't my foundation or my repertoire, if you will. So that's kind of what hooked me, is wanting to challenge myself in a very new way. And then getting into it, the community was so incredible that's actually what kept me coming back, because the community was just honestly just wonderful. And it had been a while since I'd experienced such a welcoming and supportive community in sport. So I stayed for that reason. And then as I started to kind of, I guess, reconsider whether or not I wanted to continue doing this, because to compete in Hyrox at the top level, the amount of dedication and training is wild. Like your entire life has to revolve around it. So I started to kind of reconsider whether or not I want to keep doing this. And then I did a doubles race with one of my good friends, and that rejuvenated my love for it, I guess, because I really loved kind of that bonding element. That was really, really special to me, and chasing that goal together. And all of a sudden it became, I wouldn't necessarily qualify it as a team event, but now you're in the trenches with someone. And so that's what brought the love back for me, and that's what kept me going.
You did all right in this first race, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Katie, you made a face when I said in your first go, you were like, no, not me. How well did you do in your first race?
I won I raced age group. I won my age group.
First
So
go.
yeah.
and
Qualified for Worlds. It was very cool. I didn't even know there was a World Championships. I had no idea about anything. I just ran for my life.
What was it like in the States and Canada at this stage? Because this is 2023 we're talking about. And Europe has kind of gone, because it started out, I think it started in Germany, but I've noticed it's a little bit bigger in Europe. It's one of those rare things that's, I think, from my perspective, I could be wrong, a bit bigger in Europe than it was in the States and Canada to take on. So in 2023 here, it was easy enough to get into an event. Like you get there was a 1-day event and you had like 6 weeks before sold out. 2024 was like, I think it was 1 or 2 days, very hard to get into, sold out pretty fast. And then 2025 was like a 5-day event, and it was just, it's insane to get into. Wait, even gyms that are affiliates can't get into it because it's just so few tickets, so many amount of people that do it. Well, I know you saw it through Instagram, but was it big where you were in 2023 or in Canada or the States, or how was it now, and how much has it grown since then?
In Canada, it was non-existent. If I mentioned Hyrox, no one had any idea what I was talking about. I mean, honestly, even now, so many people are like, what's Hyrox? But in the States, yeah, it was for sure bigger. I mean, there's people, I can't believe this, that have been doing it for 7 or 8 years now, which is mind-blowing to me. But yeah, once I understood kind of how to navigate it in the States, it was more prevalent. Canada didn't exist at all.
So when you look at this as now a competition and a world championship, you've said, I didn't train for this. Was this a wake up call to go, maybe if I trained, world championships could be something for me? What was the thought process when you're standing there with your first flag on your first day of your first high rock to go on, all right, champion of the world, here I come? Was because you're a very competitive person. So I know you've stood there gone, I am going to be world champion. For a moment, that's in your head. What was the plan after that?
The plan was to start running at all, more than a couple hundred meters at a time. I basically coached myself for, I want to say, probably the first year. And then I realized, okay, I have no idea how to balance the nuances of distance running. So whether it's zone 2 runs or threshold runs, I didn't know any of that. So that's when I was like, okay, I need a coach to help me navigate this. And especially because I have such a strength background, the strength aspect wasn't an issue, but to build that endurance capacity, that was a really big challenge. So it's been so much running, so much running.
It is unusual because most athletes who are endurance athletes, like triathletes or long distance runners, they transition into Hyrox really, really well. Not easily because it is different, but really well because they have that base of endurance, muscular endurance. Was that a challenge for you to catch up on? Because when you look at swimmers, for example, they've swam all their childhood and they go into triathlon, everyone's like, yeah, well, you were a swimmer. It's almost like a prideful thing. Do you look at endurance athletes and go, yeah, well, I was a sprinter, did you find that as a disadvantage? And again, did that give you a competitive want to be better in the endurance game?
It was definitely a disadvantage. I mean, if we were doing 200 to 400 meters at a time, no problem. But it has been a very challenging thing to basically shift systems, because sprint to endurance, yeah, it's just a different system. And so I had to teach my body essentially something brand new. And I felt like I was playing catch up to such a significant extent. And so even when I would have a really great training session, I would then go on fucking Instagram and you'd see these other runners with their incredible times. And I'm like, man, like, how behind am I,
Yeah.
So it was very challenging, both physically and mentally.
When you say so much running, how much of that running is separate or in line with your strength exercises? So do you do a lot of your running like sleds, wall balls into running, or is that running separate? And what are we talking about by so much money? I'm almost afraid to ask mileage wise.
Just wins.
So
Yeah.
so I've had different coaches that have had different approaches. And there was one point last year that I was running, 50, 55 miles a week, which was bananas to me, considering I'd never run more than maybe 5 kilometers a week in total as a sprint athlete. And with that, there would be a lot of, I guess, those mixed workouts where you would be running with your sleds and whatnot. And then it worked well, but I definitely found I was overtraining at a certain point, and that things started to kind of deteriorate. So I needed to shift to a little more long runs, but also take rest days and not be lifting weights every single day. So then when I started with my coach last fall, we would have 2 threshold sessions a week and then 2 long runs and then a bike. And it was a lot more sustainable. And I found I recovered much better. And then I would be lifting only 3 times a week. So the balance, I found that the interference was less so. And I know there's a lot of athletes that are like, more volume is better, 20, 25 hours a week. If that works for them, have at her. But for me, I'm in my 30s. Like in my 20s, I probably could have done that without issue. But now I'm in my 30s and I also have a very demanding career. So because I have stress coming at me from all directions, it wasn't sustainable. So now less training actually works better.
For someone who runs through the wall, what are those signs that you are overtraining?
Brain fog, getting sick more often. I've been very fortunate to not get injured a ton, but I would find I would be more emotional. If I was starting to get burnt out, instead of being excited for my workouts, which I often am, like even if it's a shitty workout, I'm excited because I love to challenge myself and I just love working out. I would almost dread it. Like I would be at the gym just being like, okay, get through this session, just one more rep at a time, and then you get to go home. If I start to hit that, then I know I'm over fatigued. And then that was compiled with I was pushing myself so hard, my body actually started to show signs of different physical issues. So my thyroid started to deteriorate, which I guess is very common. I didn't realize this in endurance athletes. So that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months, essentially, is healing that portion because my body, well, it hit a wall.
Went through that wall
Didn't
again.
know. It was a combination of mold poisoning, extended birth control use, and stress. And my body was like, nope, fuck you. And I was like, oh, I guess I better learn some things about anatomy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I suppose getting to 30 as an athlete and realizing that is but it does show like we've all the information, but when you have that competitive edge and the do all to win, it's hard to see it. It's like even through this podcast, we have front row seats to fantastic athletes like you. Myself and Sean have had 300 plus episodes of the best advice in the world. We are still terrible terrible at taking that advice. But to talk on your career and to touch on that, because it is a dog eat dog world when you go into the legal system. And so I don't know your background into what it is you do. Is Hyrox, because 55, 65 miles, that's a lot of running. That's big marathon running. That's big miles on top of the other elements that have to be trained for. Going into doubles takes some pressure off in the endurance side of things. Do you find that now in terms of managing where you are in terms of your health, well-being, your career, and getting the most out of a sport as a high performer? And we're not saying that you're average, but to be able to perform at a really high level with a partner, is this the perfect niche for you now, or does the individual side still show its head every now and again, but it's being managed by life on the other side?
It's an interesting question. I like the individual side because it's all on you. And sometimes it's nice to just take on those challenges by yourself. But the doubles is, I think, more, I guess, a better race for me given my background. I also just really enjoy it. I like being in the trenches with someone. But at this point, I mean, I've spent the last couple months really evaluating how I feel about Hyrox in general because the social media aspect has become so prevalent that I almost wonder whether it's for other people or for myself, how much of the motivation to race is because of the social media presence that then correlates with it. So I'm like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Because the challenge to compete at the top level in this is so demanding. I need to make sure I'm not doing it because I'm just kind of getting carried by this wave. And with the changes that are coming to the Hyrox structure for next season with the point system, uh, it it's deterring me from wanting to continue racing, at least at a competitive level, because it was already very expensive. To race Hyrox, it wildly expensive. It's not just the race entry fee, it's the travel, the planes, the hotels, the food. And now you have to hit so many races to hit points. And It feels like a little bit of a pay to play model. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't know if I'm willing to commit and put in both the training time and the costs. Plus, the race has in itself has changed in the sense that when I started, when you would hit the sled push, it would stop you dead in your tracks. Like that sled did not move. And as a stronger athlete, like that was great for me. But now with the new turf and the sleds don't move in the same way. They move much easier. So back then, a sub 4 minute sled time was remarkable. And now people are hitting 2 minute sled times. So for me, I find that it's less of a hybrid race now and more of an endurance race, which is, again, totally fine. I would rather be more of a hybrid athlete than an endurance athlete. There's other things that I really enjoy doing. And so I don't want to be training essentially the way you would train for a marathon. It's just not enjoyable to me now having assessed it, if that makes sense.
And do you find that conflict now because of the success and the social side and everything that comes with it? Because it is there. It's very much on the tip of everyone's tongue. Even here in Ireland, every gym has a Hyrox class now. It is there. It's what I see is, and I'm sorry if I paraphrase this, when the CrossFit fad came, it came in a wave and there was CrossFit gyms opening everywhere. Now it seems to be Hyrox gyms and Hyrox classes. So it's hard, I suppose, when you talk about social norms, it's almost hard to say, I don't know what Hyrox is, or I don't think Hyrox is for me. Is that a difficult thing for you to process right now? And is this a further change in identity?
Absolutely. I mean, when you commit yourself so strongly to something and then you have success in it, and by no means am I a fixture in the elite community. I've been fortunate enough to race in some elite races, but you you get tied into it even more so because of the social media aspect. So then if a race doesn't go well, you question your identity as a high rocks athlete rather than looking at it as, oh, I'm a human being and this is something I do. And if I don't have a good race, welcome to the party because no one has a good race every single race. So to consider stepping away from high rocks at a competitive level and maybe just doing a funsy race here and there was really challenging because I feel like you put so much in. So to remove that from yourself, it's almost like you're losing a piece of yourself. And then there's a heartbreak over the doubles racing aspect with me because I absolutely loved that and the bonding experience that you get to have with your partner and chasing those goals with your partner. So it's almost like you're grieving something even though you're making a thoughtful decision to move forward.
I have imposter syndrome even saying any like that. I've done a couple of high rocks events and different hybrid races and stuff, and I've done the singles and I've done the doubles. And the one that I thought was going to be, this is grand, is the relay because it's 2 runs, 2 stations. I died because I had no idea how to limit myself doing it. Like as soon as I tagged out, I just fell to the floor. I was in an awful way. You represented Canada twice doing the relay. What stations did you do and how did you find it?
Did the sled pull and the farmer's carry,
Did
which
the exact same.
yeah, well, I mean, I love both. Like, I have very strong posterior chains, so they work well for me. But I was the same as you, especially at last World Championships. I mean, you have to go 100%, but I didn't understand that you need to take a little bit off. So I was ripping on the sled so hard and then into the farmers that I actually fucked up my back that day. And then we had our elite doubles the next day. And I was like, son of a bitch. Like I should have just taken like 5% off. But I mean, you're in it with your relay team. It's Team Canada. You're on such a stage and you want to just get back to hand it off. And I anchored the 4x4 in high school and college. So for relays, I'm used to literally blacking out, and it was a detriment to the rest of the weekend, unfortunately. I mean, you live and you learn, but that sucked.
I can so relate to that. It's like you just feel like it's only 1 kilometer, right? Let's go, and that's a sled pull. I'm nowhere near your level, but like when you go as hard as you can, it spikes the heart rate when it finishes. Like, when I finished that sled pull, you only have like 400 or 500 meters to get back to tag out. I struggled to get that little bit. A lot less 400. It's only 100 meters, 102 meters where we were, but I getting that last little bit, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. It's that bad.
Yeah. No, seriously. It was, I was actually so frustrated. I'm like, why didn't they put the relay last? When they put
Mm.
the nation's relay last in Manchester, was it Manchester? Whatever one was after that, Nice, I don't remember. It was awesome because everyone was done competing except for the relay. So everyone was in the stadium cheering. People were half cut. It was fabulous. And like in Chicago, they're like, no, we're gonna put it in the middle. And I'm like,
Oh,
why? No one's gonna be here. Like this.
yeah.
It was an organizational oversight, in my opinion, but I don't run Hyrox, so whatever, man.
Can I ask, because you did say not running in that, and you did say it was burnt out, so you can't have hard feelings with that Olympic qualification. But does wearing the Canada bib, does that draw you in that little bit more? And that, because I know you've represented yourself and everything else. You've been to college, you represented universities, but representing Team Canada in Hyrox, is that does that carry the same level of pride that would make you want to stay in? That if the team was like, come on, Katie, we're going to the World Championships, is that something that will pull you in more? And do you feel that pride with that as much as you would have if you did go for that Olympic, or to make it to an Olympics?
Absolutely. Wearing Canada is, to me, such an honor. I mean, even in track, going to the Canadian training camps and everything, it's something that I have always taken so much pride in. So even if there was an opportunity to just do the relay, which obviously there isn't for this year, racing with Canada across you is something that's so special. And yeah, that was such a motivator to really push myself and do well in the season outside of the elite races. I mean, wearing Team Canada is always wearing team whatever your country is, in my opinion, is always the pinnacle of what you can do. To me, that's so special.
And obviously, with the World Cup now, a couple of moments away, and I can see the TV screen glances starting to commit. No, I'm joking. But well, on the soccer stage, was it something you ever thought? And again, I don't know. I haven't done the research. Was it something you ever thought you'd pursue playing for Canada, or did you play for your senior team in Canada as well?
Did it, and you know what? That was always a goal of mine. I've always wanted to play. I've always wanted to be an Olympian. I've always wanted to play in the Olympics for something, whether it was track or soccer. And I love soccer, but I didn't know the avenue to get to be in a position where I could even be considered to playing for the national team. Because I didn't play soccer for those 4 years in university, those main 4 years. So I didn't have footage, didn't really have that reputation. And then I was playing in the States, and then I was playing in England, and I was just bouncing all over the place. And then I was trying to get degrees at the same time. So I didn't know how to get there. And then by the time I graduated law school, came back to Canada, it was like, oh, let this dream go. You're now 28 and you're too old for this. And then ironically, over the last couple of months, I'm like, am I too old for this? Because the Olympic
Yes.
athletes in their late 30s, early 40s doing amazing things. And I'm like, are these numbers that we've come up with just totally fabricated? Is this just people trying to keep us in a box? I don't know, but I'm like, I feel like I train smarter now than I ever have. I feel like I recover better now than I ever have. So why should I limit chasing my goals? Whether I achieve them or not, I don't know. I can't predict the future, but why should I limit myself from trying just because of some social construct that was made up?
Is there
I
World
want
Cup fever? Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I want to just touch on, but I know Sean's about to ask about World Cup fever, and that's definitely playing in because I'm going to represent somebody. I don't know who, but I'll try and get to a World Cup. But when you look, Katie, now, and you're in a decision phase, we'll say, and maybe you don't want to say what that is now, but I want to touch on the other side, which athletes, people, we don't tend to be open about, and that's the therapy side, that's the journaling side, that's the being present with yourself, because you have a busy career and you also work really hard. You're highly competitive, which can be a blessing and a curse, being highly, highly competitive. How are you managing the holistic approach now that you've introduced to your life? Because that's a big change for a lot of athletes to be talking about that for a start and introducing it into their lives.
I'm a lot nicer to myself now. I was so mean to myself for so many years, uh, both mentally and physically. So now I recognize that emotions are very normal and it's okay to acknowledge them and process them. And I don't need to bottle them up because I had such a perception for so long that showing emotion would make you be perceived as weak. And now I realize that we all have emotions. And if you bottle them up, it's actually going to be super toxic for you because at some point they're going to fester, then implode. But now, and this is something I try and talk about often on my Instagram, is be a human and feel the full spectrum of emotion because one, you're going to enjoy everything, but two, you'll process through them a lot faster rather than having them bury themselves inside of you and just sit there and eventually kind of corrupt your system. I don't know how else to say it.
With that grounding then, and as you look, the next question we look at, and the World Cup fever and the who knows of who knows, what is in the next 6 months, 6 years, 10 years, next four Olympics, what is in the pipeline for you, or is it still we don't know, we'll take it day by day?
So I haven't said anything about this to very many people. There's a couple of close friends and then my family, of course, who knows.
Oh, here we go.
You nailed the
We've
anything
got
about
we've
y'all.
already got the clickbait. Hold it. Hold it.
So, like I said, upon assessing how I feel about Hyrox, I really enjoy the challenges of it and that team aspect, but the race in and of itself, I enjoy it. I don't love it. It doesn't set my heart on fire. And when I look at track, what I loved about track was there's a start line, there's a finish line. Whoever gets to the finish line first wins. But now with Hyrox, there's so many elements and there's judges and there's new rules and they come out subsequent after races. And it just, I enjoy it. But like I said, it doesn't set my soul on fire. And I really miss almost traditional sport.
Yeah, okay.
And I miss feeling like an athlete in that capacity with agility and hand-eye coordination and having to react and not having kind of the predictability of it. So I decided the other month that I actually want to make a play for the national team for flag football.
Oh,
Oh,
flag
wow.
football.
2028 in LA, the first time it's going to be a flag football in the Olympics. Am I right?
That's right.
My
We
God, this
haven't
is gonna
mentioned
be.
football in
I
the
know the
last
blue.
50 odd minutes. Where did
I
this
know
come
the.
from?
I know the Katie blueprint. She's gonna go on her first day, having never done it, and she's gonna perform. She's gonna out
Run
sprint
through a
everyone.
player. You can't do that
Gonna
in
run
flag.
through. Oh my God. So,
Brilliant.
Katie, I just have one question. Can you get us tickets to the Olympics so we can go watch flag football? I like to visualize the success. I just want to know if we can get the tickets good and early.
I
What?
mean, let me make the team first, but I don't know how
Nah,
many
fine.
tickets
You're
you
in.
get. So if there's extras, yes, they're yours.
Katie, what is involved? I know the match is about to kick off, but we can't let this go. What is involved in this? Why flag football? Where? When? How?
Mm.
All of the questions.
So when I found out that flag football was going to be an Olympic sport in 2028, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I have no football background. That is not a sport I've ever played. But there was like this seed planted and it just kind of kept sitting there poking me. And so when I was like, man, I'm done with competitive high rocks. I don't care about ever practicing burpees again. I just don't give a fuck. Um, I was like,
Me too.
I very much felt like I still have something to give in athleticism. Like I haven't hit my potential as an athlete. So I was like, man, I could go play soccer again. I actually have a soccer tournament this weekend, but it wasn't pulling at me in the same way. And this very new sport, for me at least, and this new challenge, I was like, I kept coming back to it. So I was like, okay, I guess I better learn how to catch and throw and rush and do all these things. So that's what I'm doing.
Is there tryouts? Like or is this you have to get involved in a league and a team? Is there is there a whole commitment shift involved in this?
Eric's asking this because he's thinking about heading down
I'm in.
to in Dublin for the
I'm going
Irish
back
first
down.
and try getting the Ireland team for the flag. There's that option over here as well, Eric. I raged
Katie,
and take up flag football 8 years ago. We did
here's
the pads
here's a
instead, got
fun
killed.
here's a fun fact no one knows. I represented my country in American football and I played it once. Yeah,
I
that's
wish
it.
he was lying. No one's going to get the reference, but tell your fourth down story, Eric.
I was a kicker. They called me Greg the Leg after someone I never knew existed in American football. I don't know. It's apparently a known phrase. But we hadn't made a single yard in the whole game, and then I faked a punt and got the first down. I got absolutely smashed. Like, I thought I was going to meet God. Two of the biggest men I ever met in my life absolutely pile drived me. But I made a first 9-yard rush, and it was to this day my greatest achievement. So I'm very curious as to how I can make an Olympics. So please do tell, what's the plan?
I mean, I don't know about you, but for me here, I started trying to just learn about the community. So there is flag football leagues here. And I now play on a co-ed team because, of course, it's just fun. Then I actually play on a men's elite team because it's more competitive than the women's. I'm also training one-on-one with a retired NFL and CFL player. So that's been really helpful. Just learning the skills because you got to catch a lot of footballs. And I mean, on the days that I'm not training football specifically, after my runs or my weights and whatnot, and I'm doing a lot more plyos and lateral movement and stuff, I lay on the ground in my living room and I literally just throw the football to myself 1,000 times. So I do that a couple times a week as well.
That is the 10,000 hours that people
Yeah.
say, and you're doing it in your sitting room, and I just feel so amateur. But anyway, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to get a football. I'll FaceTime you while I'm throwing the ball, 10,000 times now tomorrow. Just for the added difficulty. Oh, this is amazing. So when is the cutoff, or do we know when cutoff is, or how qualification, or are you just gonna go, we're here now, let's just see what happens, and I'll let you know in a year's time?
So there is world champs are in August. I have started way too late to make that team, but that's a qualifier for the Olympics. And for making the Canadian team, it's a combination of getting game footage, as with any other sport. I've being the resourceful little psycho that I am, I've actually gleaned the contact information for the national team coaches. So I'm speaking with them. It's getting that game footage. And then also there's invitational camps that you can go to. So getting to those camps will be basically the next step.
Best of luck with that for Kayti. You have this absolutely brilliant, but not to take a step back in this. But let's say you wake up next week and the news comes out. I don't know how likely it is. You probably know, you do know a lot more than I would, being in that circle, that Hyrox becomes an Olympic sport because they seem to be trying to go that way. Does that make you go, oh, do I have a better chance to go back this way towards that? Or is it flag football now?
Flag football, 100%.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, without question. I feel like our time is so valuable and it's really our greatest currency. So if I am not absolutely in love with something I'm doing, dedicating my time to it, then I feel like is kind of a waste of life. So Hyrox, I enjoy it, doesn't set my soul on fire anymore. Football does.
Brilliant.
Simple as that.
I've just found Irish flag football teams. I'll see you at the Olympics, Katie.
You don't even need tickets from me. You'll be there.
Look, I need a backup plan if mine doesn't work, and you're pretty much you're a solid bet now in comparison to me. But Katie, it has been absolutely amazing to have you on. We've been around the world of sport there, and I think we've uncovered more than we bargained for. But it's amazing to see the dedication you give to sport, your career, and the openness you've shared. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Have you any tips for anybody who is listening about getting into sport and getting into running and chasing their dreams?
Just start. I feel like most people struggle with just that first step of starting. You don't have to know all the directions to go and all of the best ways to start. Literally just put on your shoes and go out the door. It's as simple as that. And I think for me, the biggest thing why I've achieved so much of what I have in such unique circumstances is because I will contact as many people as possible and ask them for help or insight. I will put myself in positions to try and create as many opportunities as possible. And if 1 out of 100 pans out, perfect. That's all you need. So don't be scared to take that initiative. I think that so many people wait around for something to either come to them or for someone to do it for them. When it comes to chasing any of my goals, I don't wait on anyone to do anything for me, ever. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life.
I feel like I don't need to sign off the podcast. That should just sign it off itself. But I'll attempt to sign off. On that note, that is it for this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast from myself, Kayti, and Eric. Take care.